What's up, everybody? It's Sideline to Sideline. It's just a regular game this weekend, nothing too big. We had the big one this weekend, so obviously we're here to talk about that, break it all down. I'm not alone. You already know. Off to the left, the NFL genius. How you doing, Gene?
I feel pretty good. I mean, honestly, I took a long time to make my prediction on this Super Bowl, but I feel very confident about it. Kyle, you'll be thrilled to know, you've already heard on multiple shows,
Yep.
I'm on the Patriots, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But I'm phenomenal. But joining us, now listen, I make this very clear. We don't get this opportunity too often to where I'm posting on Facebook 35 minutes before the show if anyone wants to join and talk football. But when you have a guy that's already been on 3 shows with me, super intelligent sports fan, Ed the Head, great softball player, awesome person. And now he lives in Florida, so he lives too far. So we can hop on and join us virtually. How are you feeling tonight, Ed?
Hey, I'm excited to be on. Yeah, I saw the post, and yeah, I love talking sports with just about anybody. So the chance to do it with two professionals such as yourself, um, again, it's like a late Christmas present that just arrived.
Love it. Let's have some fun tonight. Let's talk about some stuff. We got a lot to get into. And guys, we're going to get into a lot of Super Bowl talk. We will, I promise. But there's stuff that we have to talk about in the NFL that is happening that is just, I can't skip it. Good portion of the show is going to be Super Bowl. Good portion of the show is going to be Super Bowl. But we got offensive coordinators hired by different teams that I'm just smacking myself in the head. Matt Nagy is the new offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. And this is a guy that failed with Mitch Trubisky, failed with Justin Fields, and this guy made Patrick Mahomes look pedestrian this year. Andy Reid always like, yeah, give him a head coaching job. Get him now out of here. We'll release him. They hired Eric Bieniemy so fast so they can get Matt Nagy out of the building as quick as possible. What do you think about this hire for Harbaugh, Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, Malik Neighbors, Matt Nagy? Kyle, what's your thoughts on this hire?
I mean, look, if you're a Giants fan, you have to be a little hesitant when you have a young quarterback in Dart with a guy that you just mentioned. Nagy hasn't had the best, resume with young quarterbacks. So I don't know. I don't like the hire necessarily, but Nagy was in some head coaching, discussions, which I was like, please don't let that happen. And thankfully, Tennessee and others went different directions, but we'll see. It's a hire that I definitely was not expecting nor like once they made it. So good luck, Dart and Scatterby.
Sorry, my fault, Kyle. I didn't mean to.
No, you good.
And what am I missing? Why does this guy keep getting interviews? Is it because he won a Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator for Andy Reid? Like, that didn't work for Eric Bieniemy. He didn't get a head coaching job because he was a great offensive coordinator. Like, why does this guy keep getting interviews, Ed? Why is he keep getting jobs?
I think it comes down to coaching pedigree. Like when you're associated with winning coaches and coaches that have had extended amounts of success, like Andy Reid, I think you're getting hired based off the coaching pedigree. I think his ability to develop leaves a little bit of a question mark. You're going into an environment where you have arguably one of the more athletic, very, very high ceiling quarterbacks, new quarterback in the NFL that has shown at times glimpses of brilliance, being able to throw the ball down the field, being able to extend plays. And we've seen him run, number of yards in a lot of big games this year. So there's a little bit of a head scratching moment for me with, well, why hire to this type of environment? There was a lot of other jobs out there that maybe would have been a better fit with a more seasoned play caller behind center, but with a brand new, quarterback that's still in the early stages of his career, this is a little bit of a head scratcher for me.
And I'm going to answer you this, and I'll go right to Kyle. Do you think the New York Giants were in a better situation last year than this year? I think everybody gives John Harbaugh a lot of credit. And I'm going to be just transparent with you as possible. CEO coaches have never been a turn on for me. Coaches that don't really coach offense, that don't really coach defense, like the guy that's the CEO. I don't necessarily believe. I think I think Harbaugh's good at finding the right people to put around him. But I don't
Yeah,
think
I think
Matt
that's a
Nagy's
fair.
that guy.
I think that's a fair statement. We've seen time and time again. Obviously, with our native, with us being native Philadelphia fans, that didn't go well with Chip Kelly. When
Yeah.
you gave somebody all the power and made all the decisions. Um, but again, I think good organizations have a series of checks and balances and a level of accountability. In the front office with general managers. Um, but again, it's very very early. He's had a very very good run in Baltimore. I'm interested to see how this plays out. With the Giants. But again, it comes down to styles, personalities. It's going to be very interesting, for Nagy to go in there, as an OC, considering he was in conversations to be the head guy in a couple places. So I'm interested to see if those two can coexist under one roof.
Sometimes I just want to understand what NFL franchises see that I don't. Kyle, I talk about this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How retread coaches get positions. Now, listen, I'm as big of a Frank Wright fan as anybody. Like Frank did great things for us in Philadelphia. 2018 is something I'll never forget. By the way, today's the anniversary of 8 years ago today, the Philadelphia Eagles won their first Super Bowl. That was, yes, February 5th, 2018. I am of the inclination that Frank Wright being hired as the offensive coordinator for the Jets in a situation where they're most likely going to be bringing in a free agent quarterback or drafting one at number 2 that will be way overdrafted for where his value is. Right now, this is a 1 quarterback draft. It's Mendoza and then some. And I don't even think Ed likes Mendoza. I do, but that's okay. Kyle, what are your thoughts of Frank Wright being the next offensive coordinator for the other New York team? Both New York teams taking retreads.
I think for both New York teams, I think they're just looking for some kind of stability, and maybe they went with what they think are like safe picks. I think with the Jets, they obviously have to figure out the quarterback position, which is something that's been a big issue for them for not just last season, but several years now. And especially if they're going to go in the draft, I would really be worried. I mean, you're looking at Sunday. Sam Darnold is the poster child for them, drafting a guy and not knowing what to do with him. Zach Wilson, I mean, I think it's a little different, but I don't know. I think I feel like I would feel more confident in Reich than necessarily Nagy. And it's not overly confident in either one, but I like I said, I think they're going with safe picks to hopefully, I guess, stabilize a little bit with the team situations that have been a little bit on the downhill for some years now.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of laughable to me what the New York Jets have done. And if any coach deserved to be fired after 1 year this year, it was Aaron Glenn. You're talking about a defensive backs coach that was a defensive coordinator that went over to a team that didn't record an interception. I don't know what position you played, Aaron, but I don't remember the last time an NFL team went a whole year without recording an interception. That's wild to me.
Mm-hmm.
Ed, has that ever happened?
Well, here's all I know. They set a record that will never be broken. Do you know how hard that is to do in the NFL, where every year records are broken? But yeah, I definitely think that. I think what you've seen over the last 15 years is that former NFL quarterbacks make pretty good offensive coordinators. In a lot of cases, you saw it with Kellen Moore. Wright has had a lot of success in a lot of places he's gone. I don't think that he did a very good job of surrounding himself with like-minded individuals as a head guy. But again, it's one of those situations where you're going into a very a very microscopic, heavily scrutinized, heavily evaluated environment with a lot of question marks at offense, including the quarterback position, where This might be the first time I'll ever say this. It might be a no quarterback, draft. I mean, Mendoza's had a lot of really good games where he's looked really, really well. Um, some would argue that it was against lesser opposition and that he was a game manager against better competition. But I've also believed over the last 3 or 4 years you haven't seen that that leading quarterback prospect coming out of the NFL. A lot of these guys are just projects and like wait and see, hope they develop, type of talents. So, but if anybody can develop, I think Frank Wright did a very nice job when he was with the Eagles in developing two different quarterbacks, including a backup over the second half of a season on the string to a Super Bowl.
I'm gonna get myself and Kyle, I'm gonna ask your opinion too. I'm not sure how much Mendoza you watched. John Suggs is very sure Mendoza is going to be a bust with the Vegas O line. I don't think the Vegas O line.
Did I lose you guys?
Well, their offensive line was terrible to begin with. But here's the truth: with a new head coach, which is probably going to be Clint Kubiak, it's all but taken care of. Yeah. Clint Kubiak's been in New Orleans and he's been in Seattle, and they prioritized building up the offensive line. I don't think he throws Mendoza out behind the 31st offensive line in the NFL next year. The Raiders were terrible at offensive line. But if I'm Clint Kubiak and I'm drafting Fernando Mendoza, and I have, and people look at that Vegas job like it's not a great job. I think it's a great job. You have Genty, you have Bowers, you have the number one pick. You can draft the quarterback you want. You have $100 million in salary cap to build up that offensive line. I don't care if we stop anybody next year. Here's what I need: offensive head coach, develop offensive quarterback, and protect my quarterback with an offensive line. Go spend all $100 million on the offensive line. Spend it all. Protect him. Give him Genty. Give him Bowers. Give him Michael Mayer. And run your offense. Run your offense the way you'd like. Ed's back. He's right here. But run your offense the way you were so still, bro. I thought I was talking to you. I love you. Froze around the screen. But what are your thoughts on Mendoza, the offensive line? And once again, I don't care what their offensive line looked like this year, Josh Rosen. Don't care. Not Josh Rosen. Your thoughts, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Mendoza is a guy that I don't think he's, a bust necessarily, but, obviously the situation you get drafted into can greatly affect your development and everything. But I think you highlighted one thing. Raiders have money. And if they spend wisely, don't do the Bengals thing where we sit here every year and go, hey, put some money in that defense, and they never do it. Like, you get Mendoza, fix the line however you have to, whether you just strictly replace a bunch of guys, or if you have some guys you do like, let them develop a little bit over the summer. And I agree with you. If the offense is really good and the defense stinks, at least it's something to build off of. Like, you can't go into next year with Mendoza running for his life or getting hit and you're worried that he turns into, David Carr 2.0. So, yeah, the job isn't terrible. It just, Davis and everything that they were doing, I do think it wasn't the most admirable situation, I guess. But they could.
It's the best situation. I get it. You don't think it's the best situation.
Yeah, but like you said, there are pieces there that if you do it correctly, it can turn around within a year or two.
I mean, I got a Cadillac and Ashton Genty. I got a Ford pickup truck and Brock Bowers. The only thing I need to do is put good friggin' tires on it. Just put the good tires on it. Give me the offensive line. Spend all the money. I don't care if their defense is the worst defense in football. I hope they lose every game next year, 38-35. But develop the quarterback. That's the only job next year. You're not winning the division. You're not winning the Super Bowl. Develop the goddamn. I wish I could get in the ear of every one of these young coaches that take this job. Your job is not to win football games year one. If you draft a quarterback, number one, and this is why I hate what Chicago's done for years. They've gotten lucky now with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, but they've done this for years. They draft quarterbacks in the lame duck year of their quarterbacks They're coaches.
Yeah.
Matt Nagy did it. Jim Fox did it. Matt Eberflus did. They all drafted quarterbacks in their lame duck year and were fired afterwards. Your job should not be to win games. It should be develop the quarterback. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I want to move. Any comments on there? I know you're getting in and out.
Yeah, I like that. Develop the quarterback, develop an offensive identity, and really acquire talent at skill positions, at the edge positions. Because again, you can get away with winning games if you put pressure on the quarterback and you force quarterbacks into bad throws, into the secondary. You can get away with, a 9-8 season and be competitive and get the fan base behind you and build a talent pool. But the most important thing is, if you're going to go down the road where you're going to try to draft and develop a franchise quarterback, is you got to learn how to score points and develop an offensive identity. And it starts up front. If you're going to draft a guy in the first round, number 1 overall, you have to protect him and make sure he has an opportunity to read a defense, go through his progressions, hit checkdowns, have a guy in Genti to be able to come out of the backfield and catch a ball for you and be able to continue to get first downs. It's really the amount of plays that a quarterback can run in that first year that gets him the experience to feel confident going into his sophomore year.
I don't, Pete. Pete said, I feel so bad for Mendoza going to Las Vegas. Guy has so much potential. I don't feel bad for him. Would you rather go to the New York Jets? Would you rather go to the Cleveland Browns? I'd rather go to the Vegas Raiders. They have $100 million in salary cap. I'll be GM Gene. I'll come in there. I'll fix the situation really quick. Who are the top 4 offensive linemen available? Let's give them all $15 million a year. I'll take all 4 of them. We're going to protect Fernando Mendoza. And I'm my offensive coach in Clint Kubiak, who's been calling plays in New Orleans and Seattle, can call plays for the quarterback. I don't care about the defense. Throw nobody out there.
And then your contingency plan is, if you're wrong on a quarterback that's on a rookie deal where you're simply throwing salary, like you're throwing a signing bonus down the drain, you can go out into free agency and go get a veteran to come in and run your offense. And basically that's your contingency plan, because there's a lot of guys that are going to be getting into their 30s that are on the tail end of their year, on their career, that would love to come to Vegas, on a 2-year contract and fill in and maybe run the offense and maybe groom the kid, after that 2-year stretch is done, if you want to win right now. And again, I just think that GMs and front office have to have a game plan, and they have to have a strategy, as opposed to just throwing a bunch of spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think that Mendoza will be fine. One more topic before we get into the Super Bowl. And I got to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. We haven't talked about Sean Mannion. We also haven't talked about Jeff Stoutland thing, which just happened last night during Wire to Wire. Kyle, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Jeff Stoutland, but in almost anyone's opinion, he's a top 2 offensive line coach in football. It's him and Bill Callahan, and I don't know who else would be even close to them. I think you have to be a transcendent coach to survive 3 coach changes. This is the 4th coach that Jeff Stoutland has coached under. A lot of people don't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
He coached under Andy. He coached under Chip. He coached under Doug. And now he's coached under Nick Sirianni. For you to be able to coach that long in an organization, I don't like the stuff that's coming out about him today. Here's the question I do want to ask both you guys. Now, I don't want to hear anyone's stupid opinion in the chat. Say your opinion, but I don't want to hear the stupid opinion of if you know Sean Mannion's going to suck or you know Sean Mannion's going to be good, because you don't. Let's be very clear. You don't. He's 34 years old. He's a quarterback in the NFL. He was a passing game coordinator for Green Bay. He was not a good quarterback, but he was always praised for his locker room leadership and his intelligence. I don't know if he's going to be a good OC or not. I don't want to. We can play the prediction game all we want.
Yeah.
Do you think Sean Mannion, or the fact that they failed at guys like Brian Dable and Mike McDaniel, are the reason because they want to hire their own coaching staff? Because it looks like Mannion's bringing in a bunch of his guys from Green Bay. Got tired 2 coaches from the Green Bay staff already. Their wide receiver coach looks like they're going to be our new offensive line coach, which is that's kind of ridiculous, I'm being honest with you. But what are your thoughts on Mannion? And I'm going to start with you. I know you're very familiar with the Eagles situation. Mannion, the Stoutland situation, and the Eagles' whole offensive coordinator. I don't want to say debacle because I don't know, but let's just say situation.
I'll start with Stoutland because I think arguably he's probably the best position coach in the NFL in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Who's developed more all-pro linemen than Jeff Stoutland? Nobody. The guy literally took a rugby player and turned him into an all-pro.
An all-pro.
All-pro. He took Jason Peters, who was average. He was an average pass blocker, average run blocker, and turned him into a Pro Bowler for years. Jason Kelsey credits nobody more than Jeff Stoutland with how he transcended his career. So this is like having, a major organ removed from your body as an organization, because this guy developed, he literally transcended the organization in the trenches. He's given quarterback for the last 10 years. He's won 2 Super Bowls mainly because he developed one of the best pass protecting. And now when they were a pass protecting line, quote unquote, he transitioned them into a run blocking line when they got Barkley, because again, they were all in 2 techniques. Then they got down 3 technique and they started pushing the pile. And it led to a 2,000-yard rusher, which there's only a handful of those in the NFL. I think this is one of the more alarming things. Like, this is where, like, the fire, the smoke alarm, the fire alarm, and now the sprinklers are starting to go off, like alarming exits. And I really think that when you look at, you had so many opportunities and interviews with all these OCs out there, and you hire your 8th choice, like a guy that has no play calling experience. We just got rid of a guy that was terrible at play calling, who had no play calling experience. So are we setting the new standard of, we're just going to bring in somebody, hope to develop them, let's see what happens, and let's hope they figure it out? Because the only guy I knew that basically was able to do that just got passed over as a first ballot Hall of Famer in Bill Belichick, because that's the only guy I know that literally went from being a special teams coach to a defensive coordinator to winning a couple Super Bowls and then leaving that organization to take a head job where he went on a run that is unparalleled. So I think that there's a lot of behind the scenes concerns in Philadelphia right now. And I'm really, really a little bit nervous going into this season. When you lose somebody like Jeff Stoutland, what is that going to do to the locker room? What is that going to do to the guys that are protecting a quarterback that at times doesn't show a lot of emotion? Like, there's a lot of concern in Philly right now.
So I want to read this to you, Kyle, and I want to give my opinion, and I want you to give me the out-of-towners comment. You can't have me sit here and be okay with what transpired. They demoted arguably the best coach in the National Football League before firing arguably the worst offensive play caller in Kevin Batul. I've seen since coming out of the wound, Nick Sirianni is 100% the problem. And now likely AJ gone, Lane Johnson might retire because his buddy is gone. It's a mess right now. I want to comment on that, and I want to get an outsider's perspective on what's going on in Philadelphia. A.J. Brown most likely will not be here next year. I don't know why people think he's not asking out. He's been asking out over and over and over again. Read the writing on the wall. The second part of it is Vic Fangio hated the culture so much he almost retired, and no one wants to talk about that. He almost retired. Now he's not, which is great for us. It feels like something's really wrong in Philadelphia. Like Jory put in the comments early, Kyle, from an outsider's perspective, do you think Sean Mannion? I don't want to hear it. Do you think Sean Mannion? What do you see when you look at Philadelphia?
So, I mean, look, as a Pats fan, obviously, Dante Scarnecchia was like that offensive line guru, and like the minute he went out the door, I saw how bad he was needed. So, a guy like Stoutland, where the Eagles every year are seen as one of the top offensive line units in the league, that's obviously a big deal that he's walking away. Now, I guess from the outsider, it's like something with Sirianni or whatever the makeup is, something's off. And now it's like it puts a brighter light on Sirianni, who I felt like has been kind of in trouble past couple of years. Then he won a Super Bowl, which gave him a little bit of leeway. But now with the way last year went, and now this offseason's going, I don't know if Philly fans are going to sit around if they start off slow again next season. And I doubt Howie in the front office will go through another year of struggles and not just move off of Sirianni. Now, you could argue if you moved off Patullo, why don't you just move off Sirianni at the same time? But that's neither here nor there. In terms of Mannion, he's kind of in a tough spot as well because he is a little bit inexperienced. And once again, referencing last season, the frustrations that Eagles fans had with the offense, I don't know if they're going to give Mannion a bunch of time to get his legs and get everything kind of figured out. He's going to have to bring some innovation to the offense, some explosiveness to the offense that was missing last year. Because a lot of times it was the Eagles becoming too predictable, or the passing game kind of looking boring, that led to a lot of losses in close games that just weren't necessary. Like the Eagles, obviously on paper, very talented team. Mannion coming in should have every weapon at his disposal to get the offense turned around. It's just, you just never know. Like he could come in, be really good, and nobody would even care that he didn't, he's a young guy, whatever. But if he struggles as well, he'll kind of get lumped in with Sirianni, and we could be right back here next year wondering who the OC is going to be and possibly who's going to be the next head coach.
The Eagles have shown you time and time again they have no problem firing a head coach a couple years after a Super Bowl. They don't care. They think the organization is what makes that Super Bowl team. But I want to read one last comment, and then we'll get off the topic. Now, listen, being around the game as long as I have, Emmanuel Acho, Sean McCoy, Chris Long, they're all guys that are Eagles fans. They go on podcasts. They used to play for the Eagles, and they're all Eagles fans. They root for Philadelphia. That's their team. It's very obvious. They're very biased in their commentary. When Chris Long heard that Sean Mannion was the new Eagles offense coordinator, it was live on a podcast. He goes, Sean Mannion, ? My old teammate, ? Great dude, great teammate. If someone asked me today, though, if you were an offensive coordinator, would you take the Broncos OC job or take the Eagles? I'd say Broncos. That kitchen is hot. And in Philadelphia, it feels like the trend is either you get a great job or it's career suicide type deal to be an OC. It's Russian roulette being an offensive coordinator in Philadelphia over the last 5 years. He also added that, hey, but the guy's 33 years old, and to be an OC at 33 years old is an opportunity I don't think he could pass up. That's not a great, to me, that's not like a, wow, this guy had all the opportunities in the world, but this is the one he chose. That's not what it sounds like. It sounds to me like Nick Sirianni getting hired for the Eagles job, or like Doug Peterson getting hired for the Eagles job. Wait, I didn't even hear him on the radar anywhere else.
Yeah. Like I said, that's why it's a tough situation, because a lot of Eagles fans will just be kind of jaded a little bit from the past couple of years, that I don't know if it will be fair or unfair. Like if Mannion and the offense isn't clicking right away, there might be some Eagles fans that will be already looking outside as who's going to be the next guy. And being 33, 34 years old, you might have to give him time. I don't know if Philly's the situation where time is of the essence right now.
Well, like the crazy thing is, if they have another bad season this year, they'll fire the coach. They don't give a shit. Philadelphia they don't care. It's what they do. They'll fire the coach, and then Sean Mannion will go back to being a quarterback's coach somewhere.
Yeah.
That's just what it's going to be.
And Sirianni should be prepared for that. He should know his job is absolutely on the line right now.
He won the Super Bowl. They almost fired him during
Yeah, I
the
know.
bye.
Yeah, exactly.
No one knows that.
So, gentlemen, I'll leave you with this parting note. When asked why Jeff Stoutland left the Eagles after 13 years, okay, where he coached the likes, and I'll give you the list: Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Jason Peters, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Evan Mathis, right? Mekhi Becton. Turn that guy from just this big pillar of a person with limited talent to a $100 million lineman who, by the way, had a pretty good year. Could have used him this year, but you got Cam Jurgens, Vaitai. Remember when Vaitai was a project? He turned him into a starting left tackle when Peters went down on the road to the Super Bowl run in 2018. When asked why Jeff Stoutland left, he felt his coaching time in Philadelphia came to an end and that his decision was influenced by the team struggles, the constant turnover in the coaching staff over the last 4 years, and decisions regarding the running game. He felt like he was not part of the decision-making process anymore and that his voice was not being heard. That's why he tendered his resignation. And for a guy that has a booming voice in that locker room, I'm massively concerned. I'm like, it's almost like you're waiting for the shoe to drop now.
All right, fellas, we got to move. We got to get to the Super Bowl. We have a big game happening Sunday. The New England Patriots, the Seattle Seahawks. What I like to do during every Super Bowl conversation is if we're going to play cups of coffee, just like we did on Coffee and Sports. 5 cups of coffee to 1 cup of coffee. We're going to go position group through position group quickly. 5 being the highest amount of cups of coffee, 1 being the lowest. Okay? We'll start in the secondary. I think, and I'll start here, I think both secondary groups for both teams are 4 cups of coffee. I don't think there's any difference. I think they both have a dominant outside cornerback. I think they both have good secondary pieces around them. I'll give both of them 4 cups of coffee. Ed, what do you like about this secondary for Seattle versus the secondary for New England? Do you give an edge to either team here?
I think a slight edge to Seattle just because of their ability to play different types of coverage and disguise their coverages. I think you saw it numerous times, throughout the regular season, in a very loaded NFC West where you're going up against, Matt Stafford in a very high power offense with 2 very, very accomplished wide receivers. One maybe one of the best in the last 10 years, maybe, and the other being one of the best in football now. I think that they disguise their coverage very well. I think they have the ability to play press. I think they have good secondary, guys that can match up well in the slot. But the thing I like the most about Seattle is their closing speed and their ability to tackle. I just think I give them a slight edge, not necessarily in coverage. I think it's a very evenly mass up. I like the 4-4. I think that's a fair score. I just like, if I'm going to go like 4.5 cups to 4, I think that would probably be where I'm at, just
That's
because
fair. Half a cup of coffee extra to the Seahawks. I'm with you.
Simply because they are relentless in their closing speed and tackling in the open field. And I just think that might impact, play a role in those third and short, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 matchups, because they're going to be able to tackle a running back or a tight end coming out of the backfield. That's where I just see maybe a slight edge to Seattle, but I don't think that you can basically balk at New England secondary. I think from a coverage perspective, I think they got some of the best guys in the AFC.
So I think we're on the same page. If the news of Nick Emanuele being hurt during practice this week
Mhm.
wasn't one of those things. I probably would have said 4.5 for Seattle if Manware was completely healthy. He's been incredible as a safety for them. Him hurting
Yep.
himself during practice is wild to me. Week of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Kyle, where are you at on this? Patriots secondary, Seahawks secondary. Where you at?
No, look, I'm in the same boat. I think they're very similar groups. You know, if you want to look at maybe the back end with Julian Love and even Worry, who is a guy that they like to move around and he'll, blitz and all that, versus Hawkins and Woodson. Like Hawkins and Woodson are kind of the inexperienced group, but they're, the ball hawks. They're very opportunistic, like Love is, and it may come down to Woolen and Carlton Davis. Which one can cover without the penalty flag and all that, and that might be the slight difference between the two. But I agree that they are very even groups. So I would agree with the 4 and 4.
All right, let's move on to the linebackers. I think this is a slight edge to the New England Patriots. I think that they're just a little bit better in the linebacking group. I look at both of them. I think they're both super underrated groups. I'll give New England a 3 cups coffee. I'll give the Seattle Seahawks 2.5 cups. But to me, it's close. Obviously, Ernest Jones has played great for Seattle this year. But when I look at New England's linebacking crew, Robert Spillane and Christian Ellis have been great. And a lot of people, Clavon Chason for New England has played great football.
Yep.
I'm going to give them a slight edge. Ed, you disagree with me or?
Clavon Chason was going to go down as maybe one of the biggest defensive busts in the last 5 years, and just reinvented himself
100%.
in New England.
Yep.
Like just reinvented himself. The guy was on the practice squad last year and is playing like an all-pro in the playoffs. Like he literally took over that game 2 weeks ago and was everywhere, making tackles, putting pressure on the quarterback. I'm 4-2. I think New England has a distinct advantage in this category due to the fact that their linebackers, like they don't miss tackles. I mean, I'm big into simple, football plays. Can you match up with a guy in open space and bring him to the ground without needing your buddies to come in and help? I think, and again, that one guy, I think, takes me from 3 to 4, because if he plays like that, like he did in the AFC Championship game, they're going to have the Seattle wide receivers and tight ends are going to have a tough time getting separation by the time he makes an impact on every play.
I don't disagree with you. Kyle, he's spouting out your New England Patriots.
No, and I agree. I think the Patriots linebackers have been really good. And even outside of those, you have Gibbons, who's like a depth linebacker that, had to play a little bit in the Broncos game because Spillane went out for a little bit, and they didn't drop off in any way. So I think Ellis, with his speed, Spillane is a big factor in the run game, which with Kenneth Walker, as Ed said, you have to be a sure tackler. Kenneth Walker can break tackles pretty easily. I do think New England has a distinctive advantage at the linebacker position.
Well, it's fine. If we're going to stay distinct advantages, I'm going right back to that distinct advantage on the defensive line. I don't care how good the defensive line for the Patriots have been. The Seattle Seahawks defensive line has been way better. Now, you're talking about a defensive line this year. DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Derek Hall. Like, people don't talk about him. He's like the man missed in that defensive line. But that D line has been incredible. As much as Milton Williams brings to the defensive line when he plays for the New England Patriots, I think when he plays, the New England Patriots have like 3rd best run defense in football versus when he doesn't play. I know what Milton Williams can do. I love what Seattle's defensive line can do. So I'll go 4-2 in the defensive line, maybe 4-2.5.
I mean, I would argue a little closer because Christian Barmore does his stuff as well. And Barmore plays a lot better with Williams next to him. So the impact that Williams does have in the run defense, he does help in the pass rush with Barmore, because Barmore usually doesn't have all the attention, and he's very shifty up the middle. Yeah, I would give it to Seattle. I do think as a collective group, Seattle is a better defensive line. I will say don't sleep on New England's front four either.
Well, we'll talk about this. Ed, what's your thought on the defensive line?
A recent analyst was asked, what was the contributing factor to both teams making it to the Super Bowl? And the guy's first answer was Seattle's defensive line is just different.
Mm-hmm.
They're just different this year. They did well in signing people on the edge. They did well in drafting people on the interior. The guy basically said Seattle's defense is the reason they're in the Super Bowl. Like, the offense gets a lot of credit. There's a lot of narratives and stories that everybody wants to celebrate. Kenneth Walker, you know, the the resurgence of Cup coming off the injury. He's back. He looked pretty great, in the NFC Championship, catching balls in a very high scoring affair. But that defense, they just find ways, and it's creative. Again, they disguise their coverages, and they disguise what they're doing across the line in 4-man fronts and 5-man fronts. They find ways to get to the quarterback and force uncomfortable throws. And when you do that, it disrupts timing. And that's such a critical part in how the outcomes of games, are play themselves out. And I really think that that's also what makes their corners and their safeties, so aggressive, because they know that the guy's not going to have 5 seconds in the pocket to look down a series of progressions, maybe one or two at best. But that's also where I think, when we get into the other skill positions, where I think New England has to have a game plan for that, because you're going to be under pressure the whole game.
100%. I put on Wire to Wire yesterday, my favorite prop of the game is the player with the most rushing yards at plus 500 is Drake May is my pick. That's a plus 500 odds to the guy to finish the Super Bowl with the most rushing yards. And it's not because they're attempting to run him. It's because he's going to be under fire all day. And it's how New England handles that pass rush that determines how the Super Bowl plays out. Because offensive line, I also give an edge to the Seattle Seahawks. I think New England's offensive line has been good, not great. I've watched New England's offensive line play. Look, I'm a fan of Will Campbell. He's a young kid. He's not where he wants to be yet. I give the edge to the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks. Charles Cross, Gray Zabel, those guys have played great on the left side of that line. They've created huge holes. Maybe 3.5 to 2.5 here. That's kind of where I'm at. Kyle, what do you see difference offensive line-wise?
Well, I think for both units, the focus will be on different areas. Obviously, with the Patriots offensive line, it's going to be the left side with the two young guys in Wilson and Campbell, how they're going to handle, like you said, the defensive pressure from the Seahawks. I think with the Seahawks O-line, it's their interior O-linemen, which we just mentioned with Milton Williams and Christian Barmore. You can't let those two, break up your pocket, get in Darnold's face, or slow down Walker up the middle. So I agree. I think the Seahawks have a slight advantage in this one, only because we don't know what Campbell and Wilson will do with their first time on this stage. And Campbell is still kind of coming back from the injury where he missed some games late in the year. So, I agree. I would give the advantage to Seattle.
Ed?
I actually have this closer, believe it or not. And I think again, it goes back to styles. Styles make fights. I think if this was other defenses, it might even be another 4-2. I actually have this 3-3. And I think it's because, again, styles make fights. I think if New England's game plan is to have Drake May throw the ball 40 times, it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night. I think if they can get their running game established, push, and again, it could be, schemed run blocking, running a lot of slants, running a lot of pitches out wide, and just spread the defense out a little bit and get Stevenson involved, where you're limiting the young guy throwing the ball from 40 to maybe 25, 26 times a game, and your ability to build the passing game off play action, you're going to have a much better game than asking a kid to drop back 40 times and sling it against that defense, because I don't think it's going to end well. I think that's when you're going to see some sacks, possibly some fumbles, some turnovers, some forced throws. But they have proven throughout the season their ability to run the ball. And when they run the ball, they win football games.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is going to be I think play calling is critical in how these two offensive lines stack up. I also go back to, and again, if Seattle's able to get Kenneth Walker involved, like they have over the past, to take a little bit of pressure off the quarterback and skill positions, because again, they don't have a lot of good check down options in the tight end position. I think New England, we'll get to that in a minute, but I really think styles make fights. I think this is a 3 cups to 3 cups because of the matchup, not necessarily because I think one is just drastically better than the other.
I hear you. When you look at this Seahawks team, this Patriots team they're going to go up against defensively, outside of maybe week 9 versus the Texans, is probably going to be the best team they've seen. And week 9 versus the Texans, they weren't able to run the ball, and Sam Darnold looked super pedestrian. So when they go against elite defenses, I think things happen. Let's move to as we go on with the offensive side. We're kind of getting a little bit behind. I want to make a bold statement here, so I'll start off with this one. Wide receivers, I have it 2.5 cups to 3 cups, an advantage for Seattle by 0.5 cup. And the reason the 0.5 cup is Jackson Smith and Jigba. I heard you just bring up Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp isn't Cooper Kupp anymore. Just call him Cole Beasley. He's just a lightened down version of what he used to be. He's not Cooper Kupp anymore. Can he make a play for you? Can he use his hands and make a savvy vet move? Sure. But when you look at New England, you look at them, they can run you 4 deep. Like, there's not one guy. They don't have Jackson Smith and Jigba, but they have Keyshawn Butte. They have Backpack Mac. They have Stephon Diggs. They have Pop Douglas. They got guys that they can separate the ball to anywhere you go. Even if you add tight ends in that with Hunter Henry. I'll go 3 to 2.5 strictly because JSN's incredible, but it's not as far as people make it seem. And what do you got on it?
Yeah, I would agree with that because JSN is obviously the biggest name, so everybody will look at that and then give them the advantage. I'm glad you mentioned New England has a lot of depth at that position, because I was going to say that it's very close between both groups. And I mean, you could make an argument that New England could have that type of advantage because defensively you have more guys to worry about. And Mac Hollins coming back has been a big addition because he kind of became Drake May's favorite guy to throw to third down situations. And I think that's going to be an important thing in this game, especially over the middle, because Mac works over the middle as well.
Who would have thought we'd ever say that? Who would have thought we'd ever say
he was an underrated signing? Yeah.
And now listen, the only reason I give the 0.5 cup advantage is not just JSN. I think Rashid Shaheed has bought a little bit of the overtop, the Seattle too. So it's not like you just have to defend nobody outside JSN. So Rashid Shaheed will burn you if you don't play a safety over top. And this game being played in sunny San Francisco is not going to be played in the snow or cold weather Seattle. So there should be more opportunities to throw the football downfield. And where are you at with the wide receiving group?
I think JSN is he's a full cup. I mean, I like the 0.5 cup, but he's a full cup, guys. He's a full cup alone by himself. I have this at 4 to 3. I think Shaheed plays over the top and probably can draw some safeties, which gives JSN an opportunity to work. But I do, again, I'll go back and I'll restate the cup, right? I don't think Cup is the full cup advantage he was 4 years ago when he won the Triple Crown. But what we saw last week was he gets open on third down and keeps drives going. And Darnold is using him in that capacity. And I think if they just rinse and repeat, you have your deep threat, you have your matchup nightmare, and then you have your check down, third down, move the sticks guy, I definitely have a 4-3 advantage to Seattle.
He gets on base, right? He's Scott Hatterberg.
Pretty
Scott
much.
Hattie. Running backs, if we would have just went a week and a half ago without Zach Charbonnet getting injured,
Mm-hmm.
and we went Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Trevon Henderson, I would have graded this out even. I can't do that anymore. I'll take Ramondre Stevenson and Trevion Henderson over Kenneth Walker and the ghost of Zach Charbonnet's past in this game, and I'll give it a full cup advantage. Here is somebody, I put $10. Everybody's got $10 laying around. Go put $10 on Trevion Henderson to win the Super Bowl MVP at 100-1. Go put $10 on that, because you want to talk about a guy that's got big game pedigree. He played for Ohio State, 2 huge runs in the national championship versus Notre Dame, and a guy that can break a big run at a big moment. He breaks 2 big runs in that game, and they're the difference. You might take $10 and turn it into $1,000, and you could thank me later. Trevion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson, the thunder and lightning of those 2 guys, I'll give them a full cup advantage at 3.5 to 2.5.
I mean, I agree. Like, and Ramondre Stevenson was a guy who had fumbling issues early, and a lot of people wanted him gone, and Vrabel stuck with him. I think he's been the most productive running back in the postseason.
Yeah.
So, and I do agree with, along with Henderson, who I think in this game could factor in the passing game a little bit more, because, like you said, with that defensive rush, Drake May might have to get it out a little quickly out into the flat, and Henderson's the type who can turn that into a big gain. So I agree that New England has the advantage in the running back room.
Ed, tell me I'm right. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, believe it or not, again, I believe that New England's running backs, if one would say the defensive line and the defensive play took Seattle to the Super Bowl, I think these 2 guys carried New England to the postseason and took a lot of pressure off Drake May. I think they gave Drake May a lot of opportunities to be successful once they got a lead. They were able to give the ball to both of these guys and just lean on a defense and put them in third and manageable, which is where Drake May has thrived all year. So I do believe that if they use these 2 guys the same way they have all year, and Vrabel likes to run, he's a defensive coach. He likes to run. He likes to play defense, run the ball. He's a new school Bill Parcells, run the ball, play defense. I think if these 2 guys generate over 100 yards on the ground, I think it's going to be a really, really good ball game. I think Kenneth Walker is a better running back than both, but I also think that they have no depth behind Walker. If Walker basically doesn't find a lane, I think these 2 guys can basically take over, and there's no drop off between Henderson and Stevenson. You literally have a perfect complement of power, finesse, and the ability to basically get outside and then run downhill between the tackles. So I'm going to go 4 to 2.5. Because again, even though I like Walker and I think he's just a 3-down back, I also think that he's one stinger away from basically putting them in a position to use a backup running back that has no experience, and that changes the dynamic of Seattle's makeup on
100%.
offense.
And George Holani, who's their backup running back, you're talking about a Boise State kid that's been in the league for like 4 or 5 years that really just has no experience. The guy's not an NFL running back. I hate putting it to you that way. He's just not. So I tend to completely agree with you there. Let's get to the bread and the butter. Let's get to the quarterback position. I'll go last on this one. Drake May, Sam Darnold. Ed, start us off.
Well, I'm going to have the unpopular opinion. There's one guy in the history of the NFL. I'm going to give you guys a killer stat. One guy in the history of the NFL to put together 2 back-to-back 13-win seasons. And it's the Seattle quarterback, fellas. The guy basically has reinvented himself. If you're going to talk about the epitome of the upper echelon game managers, this guy's it. I mean, he's a product of a good line. He has good running backs. He has a good myriad of receivers. They're a little thin at the tight end position, but you have found time and time again when people underestimate this guy, he finds a way to put together a game. But you have to take into consideration that he might turn the ball over. He has throughout the season, but he does have the ability to make throws, make big plays. Nobody has the locker room and 52 other guys behind him the way this guy does. He has a city behind him. He's really he's a good story, guys. And I think that if the Super Bowl has often played on stories, and that storybook ending. And I think that if him and that team can put together, where he's able to make some throws, I think he has a little bit more seasoning, a little bit more experience than Drake May. I give a slight edge to the veteran here, and it pains me to say that because I think Drake May is arguably the MVP of the league. He's in the top two conversations. So if this was a regular season game, this would be Drake May 5-2, but it's the Super Bowl, and where again storybook endings are made. So I give it 4 to 3.5 to the veteran who's had a remarkable year.
So you give the edge to Sam Darnold?
I do.
Okay. I'm definitely on the opposite end of that. Kyle, where are you at on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I would use Drake May's running ability and scrambling ability to give him the advantage. But I do agree that Darnold has done a lot to reshape his image. I think, he's played very well. I do agree about the potential for the interception and the turnover. I mean, Drake May has the same issue, but the ability to scramble, I give May the advantage over Darnold.
I give the edge to Drake May here. I think Drake May, now granted, the youth and the inexperience is going to hurt him. I understand. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about a guy who threw for more touchdown passes, less interceptions, more yards this year, second year in the league with less offensive weapons, as we just digressed and just showed you. Sam Darnold in big situations versus good defenses normally comes up pedestrian. I point out the Houston Texans game this year, 214 yards, 1 touchdown interception. I'll bring you up to last year versus the LA Rams. He absolutely got slaughtered when he played against them with 8 sacks. Now, granted, he played very well at home in the NFC Championship game. Mm-hmm. With that being said, Drake May is the better quarterback. He's the blue chip prospect. And seasoned chicken is never as good as unseasoned filet mignon. And I'm going to take the filet mignon over the seasoned chicken any day of the week. And I'm not talking about diner filet mignon. I'm talking about a medium steakhouse. We can go Texas Roadhouse filet. We don't have to go Morton's. We don't have to go nuts. But this kid is a filet mignon. And if he's cooked right, he could be one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. His ability and his arm and his talent and the fact of how young he is, I think he has the ability to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's going to finish second for MVP this year, which, by the way, if this wasn't a Matt Stafford swan song, like they need to give it to him because he's never got one, I think Drake May is the MVP of the league. I called that week 6.
Absolutely.
But I'll go Drake May here, and Drake May is the advantage. I do want to ask you guys, we're going to go a minute or two, a little bit long. I apologize. But I want to ask you your favorite prop bet in the Super Bowl. I gave you one. I'm going to give you another. The first, my favorite one is the highest rushing yards for the game, plus 500. Give me Drake May. You guys have any props you like in the Super Bowl? Anything you're looking forward to?
I thought that. Go ahead, Kyle.
No, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Ed.
I thought a couple things. One was who's to score first, and I thought one of the coolest was if New England wins the toss and defers. I like Rashid. I like Shaheed to basically run it back.
Yeah. Last time that happened? Do you remember the last time that happened?
Wasn't it the Bears Super Bowl?
Devin Hester, opening game kickoff, 2006, Colts versus Bears. Don't ask me why I have this information in the back of my head. But
a pile of useless knowledge, except on this podcast. I'm telling you right now, that guy could easily go to the house to open the game and just turn the game, immediately on its head. Um, like I wouldn't be surprised if you see the first to score being somebody that nobody has. Maybe a backup tight end, or maybe a third string receiver. Specifically maybe on a second down inside the red zone. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is a very even matchup. I hate the spread at 4.5. I think it's closer. Like, I really do. I don't think that there's a disparaging difference because of how good both defenses are. But I like first to score being somebody that's not that's really on nobody's radar. Because I
Take a shot, right, Ed? Give it 18-1. Rashid Shaheed. Kyle, give me a prop.
I mean, I was looking around and I saw that there's I think Mac Hollins 2.5 catches. I'm thinking he might get over that. I think Drake May is going to be looking for Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins is a guy who kind of brings that energy when they need it. So I would take Mac Hollins over 2.5 catches.
Backpack Mac for 3 receptions. Here's one more, guys. Opening drive, neither team scores. It's my own version of the Nerfy. It's going off plus 135. So opening drive, neither team scores. So Patriots first drive, Seahawks first drive, no points scored. My Nerfy.
Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl of ineptitude. I like it.
Just the opening drive.
Yeah.
I think it, you can give a little bit longer soliloquy here, but I want to get your game predictions, score, and how do you think the game will go. You can go as long as you like, and then we'll wrap it up after that. Ed, you being the guest, you're more welcome to start us.
23-20, Seattle Seahawks. And I simply think that it's going to come down to they're not going to be able to contain Drake May. He's too athletic. He'll find ways to extend plays. I think he has a little bit of Patty Mahomes in him where he just finds ways to, stay on the field. I think he'll make enough throws, but I worry that he might be susceptible to a couple of 3-and-outs. And I do believe that Seattle's defense is going to be the difference maker. It's one of the best defenses that has been put together in recent years in the league. They disguise their fronts. I think Drake May is going to play brilliantly, but I also think that he's going to have a couple of 3-and-outs. They're not going to be able to get off the field. I think he's going to throw for maybe 225 yards, possibly 2 touchdowns with maybe an interception or a turnover. I think he's going to have an MVP caliber performance, but I do think that Darnold's going to complete the storybook fairy tale ending. I do think that him and JSN are going to hook up. And I do think that Cooper Kupp is going to maybe extend a drive with 1 or 2, third downs, much like we saw in the previous 2 NFC playoff games. And I think it's going to be 23-20. And I think the hero is going to be an end of the game field goal.
Love that. That's fun. It's fun. Great game. That's all you can ask for.
A kicker becomes the bride, not the bridesmaid.
I'll take it. No, are you saying there's going to be no Buffalo Bills 1992 wide right?
Indoors.
No, I think San Fran's outdoor, right?
I think so, isn't it?
San Fran's outdoor.
It's outdoors?
It's in San Fran.
I thought that they had like a very. No, I must be thinking of LA with that crazy in the ground, in that crazy in the ground like bunker silo that they have. But I do think that kickers are often overlooked. I think you have 2 really, really good special teams that often get overlooked. But I do think that Seattle's ability to make kicks, especially that you saw in the last playoff game against the Rams, I do think that that's going to be the difference. 23-20.
Kyle.
I mean, look, just quickly, Ed talked about special teams. Brendan Schooler versus Rashid Shaheed in special teams is going to be a fun matchup. But I have the Patriots winning 26-23. Like Ed, I do think it comes down to a field goal. And I think Andy Borregales has his Adam Vinatieri moment with the field goal late that gets to the Patriots. And I think we may even see Drake may have a Tom Brady type moment, ball in his hands, needing to drive him down the field. And look for Mac Hollins, big catch over the middle to set up Borregales for a winning field goal.
All right, my game is very similar to you guys all, but I think we all have it as a close football game. I have it 23-17 New England Patriots. I think they win the game. Here's how I'm going to play out their end of the game, though. I think Sam Darnold turns the ball over a few times in this game, maybe one touchdown, 2 interceptions, 225 yards. He's got the ball in his hands when opportunity to win the game. 43-yard line, maybe a minute and change left. Drops back, tries to find it. JSN. Ball's tipped. Intercepted. Give me give me Marcus Jones with the interception to seal the deal for New England. And I think they win the game 23-17. I think it ends on that last drive. Seattle's trying to go down the field to take the lead. Tipped ball, intercepted. I like the Patriots in this game, guys. And I bring this up often. And this is if you guys are betting on the Super Bowl, because a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
I love looking at the money. The public is always wrong. They're always wrong. So the way I look at it is 65% of the bets and 62% of the money is on the Seattle Seahawks. 78% of the money line bets, 68% of the money is on Seattle Seahawks. I'll take the 32% of the money, the 22% of the bets. I'll lay with the Sharks. Give me New England plus 4.5 for the bread. And it looks like all three of us have New England plus 4.5 as their play. Even Ed, who has Seattle winning, has New England covering. Take the points. Don't be a dummy and try to play money line. This could be a 3-point game. Take the points. Don't be greedy. Because I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Could end on a game-winning field goal, like Ed said. But take the points. I like the New England Patriots in this football game. I think they cover. I think they win. And I think I'm worried about another dynasty because they still have money to spend. They can go out and get another wide receiver. They can go out and get another offensive line. They can go out and get another defensive player this offseason. I like the New England Patriots. Guys, we're about 8 minutes past. I got to bring this last thing up because it's like you got to be kidding me that didn't get brought up. And it's not in the Super Bowl, okay? Did you guys all see Todd Monken's introductory press conference?
I didn't see it, but I've heard about it.
And have you seen his introductory press conference? If you haven't, it's okay. I'll read it to you. It's a crazy statement.
If you got a transcript, I would love to hear it. But
I got you. I'll give it to you. We're not planning to change the defensive system. We're built for the system the players are currently in. I'm not going to get into staffing today because it's not time to get into that. But the players can rest assured they're going to be keeping the same system. We're going to let them attack, still going to let them play free. I can't see any other way. They're a big reason why I took this job. The defensive players. I didn't take this job because of Jim Schwartz. I have a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz, as I hope he has for me, but I took it because of the players, the ownership, and Andrew Berry, and the ability to build this roster on the offensive side. Then, when asked about it, he said, when my offense coached against the Browns defense, I wasn't coaching against Jim Schwartz. I was coaching against Myles Garrett. We had to chip Myles Garrett, not Jim Schwartz. This is a coach that is on his staff. I can't understand how that's your introductory press conference. It almost sounded like he wanted the guy to quit.
Yeah.
Coach on his staff.
I was hoping that that's what you were referring to. I mean, listen, and again, I would never normally. The guy was literally talking shiz on his new colleague, his first day on the job, and it was uh, it was basically to send a message, um, which is, hey, Miles Garrett, we want you to keep doing what you're doing. We don't want to disrupt, what you do best, but yeah, let me get in here, let me get a lay of the land, and let me decide whether or not your defensive coordinator is going to be your defensive coordinator. Um, but yeah, I mean, some off the wall stuff. The pressers with these new hires have been awesome. It's literally like watching reality TV.
Oh,
Just
that's cool. Ed, this was the quote. I missed this part. I said this to the guys the other day. I didn't think I'd say it, but I'm gonna say it here. When I was preparing for the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't trying to chip Jim Schwartz. I was chipping Miles Garrett. When I was sliding the protection to the outside linebackers or to Grant Delpit blitzing off the edge, I was sliding protection to the players. When I was worried about throwing the ball to the right against Denzel Ward or Tyson Campbell, that's what I was worried about. I wasn't worried about throwing the ball against Jim Schwartz. This is his press conference. Those are quotes. I'm not changing the words. Kyle, how the hell do you do this?
It screams that Monken is saying, look, I know Schwartz, you were up for this job. They gave it to me. So if you want to stick on as a DC, go ahead. If not, we can find somebody with these players that do exactly what you do. You're not that great. That's how it comes off. And if I'm Jim Schwartz, I'm sitting there like, I'm already upset I didn't get the job. Now I'm supposed to work with this guy who at his introductory press conference is throwing shade at me. I'm surprised Schwartz hasn't left the organization already.
And you remember Jim Schwartz from the on-game handshake with Jim Harbaugh. He's not a guy that takes things like that lightly. Tried fighting Jim Harbaugh in the tunnel.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that is going to really digest this well. I mean, it's almost like you're asking, a very attractive woman's ex-husband to become best friends with the new husband.
Yeah.
As he's taking, who has money now, and he's taking your kids on beautiful vacations. It's hard to compete with that. And again, it's hard it's hard to stomach that every day, knowing that you were passed over for a guy that calls you out repeatedly in the opening day press conference.
That press conference meant to me, Andrew Berry told him, when you get the job, you can't hire your own DC. We're going to keep Jim Schwartz if he stays here. And that press conference felt very intentional. That's all right. If I can't hire my own DC, I'll get my DC to quit and I'll hire my own DC.
Or maybe they don't want to pay for his unemployment if they fire him and they need him to quit, to void his contract. But regardless, I think that some of these press conferences with coordinators and coaches have been like better than any reality TV show pilot that I've ever watched, because some of the stuff that comes out of these guys is just legendary, like legendary. And
heard a flower press conference with Nick Sirianni.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I mean, when you start asking people about, how do you feel about coming in, with the lack of experience with play calling, and you're a deer in headlights, like who's prepping these guys for the press conference? Like, that's the number one question you're going to be asked, which is how do you feel about going into a season, your first NFL season as an offensive coordinator, having never called a play before? Like, how are you not prepared to answer that question? And you defer to, I'm just excited to be here, guys. Great organization, great coach, great players. I'm just excited to be here. Look at my shirt. I'm perplexed that none of these guys have literally had any media training or field experience. And I always go back to, you get one shot to make a good first impression to your new team, to your new fans, and get them on board with saying, hey, listen, wasn't on our radar, but I like the temperament, I like the personality, I like the way that he commanded the room, handled questions. That's a guy that I can get behind. But these guys that just deflect and defer, and they don't have that confidence in front of the camera, how are you going to call play on 3rd and 7?
Yeah, absolutely correct, Ed. We're 16 minutes past. I appreciate everybody tuning in this week to Sideline to Sideline. We're going to have a fun Super Bowl. We'll see you next week recapping the NFL season, and then we'll get it again for the NFL draft, pregame and free agency. We'll have 3 shows between now and the end of April. Looking forward to talking to you guys more. Ed, thank you so much for hopping on. You were awesome. Great talking to you. Kyle, as usual, I wish you the best of luck this Sunday. I know your team's in the Super Bowl. We'll be rooting for you at the network. I know a lot of people at the network are rooting for you specifically because of that. So go Patriots Sunday. That's the only time you'll hear me say that.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? Any final comments?
Gene, Kyle, thanks for having me. Had a blast. Again, love talking sports. Love talking sports with guys that also like talking sports and are knowledge, and have good knowledge. I'm a big fan of both of you guys and what you bring to the table each week. And again, it keeps guys like me happy to tune in. But, this is just awesome. Again, I feel like a kid that just got a Christmas present that got lost on its way from the North Pole. So thank you guys for, allowing me to be a guest and be a visitor. Gene, keep doing what you're doing. Big fan.
Kyle, thank you so much, Ed. I didn't want to, I don't do well with compliments. I jokingly do with wire to wire, but as soon as someone gets at me, I get real red and I want to turn away. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. Kyle, any final thoughts? Any comments?
Well, look, I appreciate coming on as well, Ed. It was great. Look, it's the end of the NFL season. It's the last game. I'm excited for it, not only for Sunday, but for what's to come with, Mike Vrabel and Drake May. The work that Vrabel did in 1 year is just fascinating to me. So I can't wait to see how they show up on Sunday.
I will give you guys one final thought. If you guys are free tomorrow night, the Wire to Wire Breaks Whatnot channel will be starting. Sports cards. We'll be selling mystery bags. We'll be chasing downtowns in some optic boxes. I got some Panini boxes. We're going to be breaking tomorrow night around 8:30, 9 p.m. on Whatnot. I'll make sure I share it on Facebook. I'll share it in the group. If you guys have any interest or any friends that are sports card collectors, tell them to tune in. It's my first show doing it. I'm going to be bad. I need your support. Don't come in the chat and laugh at me. Come in the chat, talk some sports. I'll talk some sports back with you as I'm giving away a bunch of stuff. I'm giving away hundreds of dollars of cards tomorrow night, and I'm giving them away way cheaper than they should be. I'm going to create an environment to where you guys can, everybody, no matter what, they put money in, they win something. That's it. You're not going to come away empty-handed for the money that you put in tomorrow night. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much in advance for checking us out tomorrow. And we are signing out.